So this is what happens when I need to organize all my goddamn plays to make this goddamn list. So yeah. Hello, this is Daniel Martz, and as promised, I'm finally going to be doing this video. So what is this video? This video is basically a updated collection of all the theatrical plays I have. As you saw in the intro, they're all over the goddamn floor right now. Why are they all over the goddamn floor? Another reason why I wanted to do, not necessarily this video, but just, I kind of just wanted to reorganize my collection of plays and like properly catalog them on my computer. And the easiest way to do that is put them off the shelf, put them on the floor, and then when I have to put them back on the shelf for the video, this one, kind of just works out, in my opinion. So yeah, that's my logic. So let's see how long this one takes. I think the original video, when I did it a couple years ago, was maybe about half an hour long, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see how long this one takes, especially because my collection has significantly increased since then, when I did that video about a year and a half ago, I think. So yeah, let's start off with the ones that are basically loose leaf papers like this, basically printed out copies. So this first one is actually by me. It's actually the script to Quince, which is currently on my channel. It's gonna be up at DMart Productions eventually within the next 2 months, probably around October, because it is a horror film. So yeah. Next up, we have the script to The Date, which is currently doing its film festival circulation. Actually, funny enough, Quince, The Date, and Corner, they, as of the moment that I'm filming this video, they actually, all three of them got semi-finalists at a festival in Greece, the YouTube Arts Club of Pavlos, Greece, or something like that. So yeah, very great. Next up, this is Bulgarian Rhapsody by Rich Orloff. I actually did perform this play at MDC. I actually have that performance was actually recorded. That whole play was recorded, so you can actually find that here on the channel. Next up, we have Luna Gale, which is a play I did at MDC. I portrayed Cliff Carlson, so that was a very fun role, very interesting role. Next up, we have Four of Hearts by Richard Chaney. That was a play we were gonna put on at MDC, and then we ended up doing something else. It's Warner Bros by Andrea Sloan Pink. Again, another performance that we filmed, and it's actually up on my channel. However, like the last 10 to 15 minutes of the play, essentially, for whatever reason, weren't ever filmed. So so when you watch the video, it kind of just ends abruptly, and that's because like the last 1 or 2 scenes, for whatever reason, were just never filmed. Next up is The Law is the Law by Marcia Sarguera. So yeah, this was actually written by somebody that I know for a class. So we had a playwriting class at MDC, and we all had to write a play, and I guess somehow I ended up with this copy. I remember it being good, I just don't remember what it's about. It's this play by Scott Organ. I actually don't know the title of it, but the characters are called Karen and Elizabeth. Next up, we have Diminished Then Augmented by Daniel Galliant, play that I co-directed alongside Professor Braun, Joshua Braun. Again, we filmed it, and you can actually find that in the channel. And this is pretty good. It's a farce, essentially, so it's very funny. This is the script to Influence, which is a play made by Jace Elton. We were originally going to film this, do a film version of it, and we shot the first and last scene, and then he kind of just didn't. Like, he lost the passion to make this into a film, but we still have the first and last scene that's somewhere up on my channel, that's up on his channel as well. So it's very fun, and it's honestly a very fun role to play. The Teacher's Lounge by Tanya Watkins Lightborne. So I actually did this play as well. This was a weird history with this play, because when I was casting it originally, I guess the producer was this lady that the producer casted the majority of the cast, and then when she left, like half the cast left, so there's a lot of issues recasting. We had a lot of issues with even making this play, and at the end of the day, it came out fine. We only performed it one night, which thought was kind of weird, because, you know, a play like this should be performed at least for a whole weekend at the very least, but we only performed it that one night. And originally, this was going to have a film adaptation, and for whatever reason, it just never happened. So what was going to happen afterwards is that they filmed the whole performance, and they were going to release that, and they actually filmed a trailer with whatever they shot that day, and that trailer was actually up at my channel. And then I contacted Tanya, the playwright, sometime last year, and I asked her, hey, whatever happens, like, are you ever going to release this? And she said, no, I'm going to see if I could shop this around to make it a film again, or to make a bigger production or something. So I don't know what's happening on with that project, but it was fun while it lasted, I guess. So yeah, now on to the goddamn books. So the first couple of books I have are Write Me a Murder by Frederick Knott, Royal Gambit by Herman Greiseker, and adapted by George White, or the translation. Seascape with Sharks and Dancer by Don Negro, Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmund Rostand, 100 Saints You Should Know About, Kate Fodor, King Henry V, Shakespeare, Euthyphro, Apology and Crito by Plato. Next up we have The Elephant Man by Bernard Pomerantz, Doubles by David Wilkes, Bleacher Bums by Joe Mantegna, Look Back in Anger by John Osborne. I have a few John Osborne plays I discovered. When Mel Fell for Nell by D.M. Larson, The Little Dog Laughed by Douglas Carter Bean. I actually performed a scene from this, which you can actually find on my channel. Thor with Anger by Christopher Fry. And actually, this is the only Samuel French book that I have that's actually a hardcover. So it's pretty interesting, because, you know, the other ones are like paperbacks. I think this is the only Samuel French book that I know that is a hardcover. So, interesting. Next up, we have The Caucasian Chalk Circle by Bertolt Brecht. A Month in the Country by Ivan Turganev. So get some Russian in there. Something I'll Tell You Tuesday and The Loveliest Afternoon of the Year by John Guare. So this is two plays. So I thought this was pretty interesting. The Book of Job as a Greek Tragedy by Horace M. Kalin. So literally the Book of Job. Alright, so this is one of the collection stuffs that I have. So the complete plays by Vladimir Mayakovsky. So this is a bunch of plays by this guy, Russian, obviously, and the plays that he has in this collection are Vladimir Mayakovsky, A Tragedy, A Mystery Booth, The Bedbug, and The Bathhouse. Next up, Brian Friel Plays, Volume 1. Honestly, Brian Friel is one of my favorite playwrights, so that's honestly a plus. You have Philadelphia, Here I Come, The Freedom of the City, Living Quarters, Aristocrats, Faith Healer, and Translations. All great plays. Actually, Philadelphia, Here I Come, we actually did a film version of it, of the last act, or the second part of the last act, because Act 3 is like split into two parts. So in high school, for a project, we filmed the, basically 3B, Act 3B, and it's actually here on the channel, and I played Mad. We filmed it, and it was a very fun filming experience, and I've actually done a few of the monologues from Philadelphia. You can find them on the channel. Next up, we have And Miss Reardon Drinks a Little by Paul Zindel. Picnic by William Inge. I actually did a scene from Picnic back at MDC. Next up, we have The Gray Man in the Suit and Other Plays by Lisa Solond. So this is like 5 or 6 plays, with the most prominent one being here, The Gray Man in the Suit. The other plays here are Different, Red Roses, The Same Thing, Knots, and Come to the Garden. All of them are again by Lisa Solond. Luther by John Osborne, based on the life of Martin Luther. Not Martin Luther King, just Martin Luther, the philosopher. He was a philosopher, right? Pretty sure he was a philosopher. The Winter's Wife by Claire Tomalin. Ceremonies and Dark Old Men by Lonnie Elder III. Next up, another collection one, The New Theatre of Europe. So here you have Mother Courage by Bertolt Brecht, The Wicked Cooks by Günter Grass, Vasco by Georges Scheheid, The Cage, and The Suicide, both by Mario Fratti. Secrets of My Soul by D.M. Larson. Oh, okay, so why do I have a composition journal? Basically, this is Church and State. When I did Church and State, what we did, we taped the script in the inside here, and we wrote our notes on the side, on the notebook paper. So that's why Church and State is in a notebook. Next up, we have Sylvia by A.R. Gurney. Laughing Wild by Christopher Durang. I was actually going to do a monologue for this one at one point, and that's why I got it. And then I ended up doing a monologue from, I think, Brian Friel, if I'm not mistaken. Dog Sees God, Confessions of a Teenage Blockhead by Bert V. Royal. So I actually did one of the monologues from this play, and it's up here on the channel. And we were actually going to perform this play at MDC, and then the world went to shit, if you catch my drift. So, yeah. And, oh, it's a very interesting play, too. It's about peanut characters as teenagers. Very interesting. Okay, next up we have 3 plays by Peter Hatkey, and this has to be one of the weirdest, some of the weirdest plays I have, if I'm being honest, because all 3 of these are basically absurdist plays, essentially. And the 3 plays we have here are Casper, Offending the Audience, and Self-Accusation. This is like peak absurdist theater. It's basically anti-theater, especially offending the audience and self-accusation. Those are basically anti-theater. So yeah, if you don't know what anti-theater is, just search it up. But in essence, it's the idea of making the audience aware that they're in a theater and almost making them uncomfortable of that fact. They're very absurdist, very experimental. It's very interesting. They technically don't even have characters. It's weird. I'm gonna get this one out of the way. So this is basically a literature composition book. Why the hell do I have this in my play collection? Well, that's because a literature composition book has plays. It also has a lot of poetry, which that's something you're gonna see at the very end of this video. I like combining my plays with my poetry books because I only have like 10 of them. Aside from having a lot of poetry here, this also does have a few plays. And the plays that it has are Sure Things by David Ives, Antigone by Sophocles, Andre's Mother by Terence McNally, A Doll's House, Heinrich Ibsen, Hamlet, Shakespeare, Rodeo by Jane Martin, Los Bandidos by Luis Valdez, A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry, The Glass Menagerie, Tennessee Williams, and Trifles by Susan Glaspell. And then next up we have 5 plays by Anton Chekhov. So the 5 plays that are featured here are Ivanov, The Seagull, Uncle Vanya, 3 Sisters, and The Cherry Orchid. Come Blow Your Horn by Neil Simon, La Lupa by Giovanni Verga, The Piano Lesson, August Wilson. So this is a collection of 5 plays by John Racine. And the plays he has here are Andromache, Britannicus, Bernice, Phaedra, and Athala. Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. And Private Wars by James McClure. So this is funny. So when you have this many plays in your collection, you're bound to get some copies. So I have 2 versions, 2 copies of St. John by Bernard Shaw, George Bernard Shaw. 2 copies. The Days and Nights of B.B. Fenstermaker by William Snyder. The Curate, Shakespeare As You Like It by Don Negro. Archangels Don't Play Pinball by Dario Fo. This one's kind of interesting. I kind of want to read it. I haven't read the majority of these plays, to be honest. The Burgomeister by Gert Hoffman. Career by James Lee. La Cid by Pierre Corneille. The Country Girl by Clifford Odets. Edgar Lee Masters' Spoon River Anthology by Charles Ademan. And I actually did 2 of the monologues from this play, so definitely go check it out on the channel. Barrymore's Ghost by Jason Miller. This is actually a pretty interesting read, to be honest. It's actually really good. Basically, Barrymore as a ghost, explaining how he thinks his life went. The French Have a Word for It by Georges Feydeau, translated by Barnett Shaw. Twelfth Night, Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare. It's a very nice edition from Barnes & Nobles. I really like it. The 3 Lives of Lucy Cabral by John Berger. The Primary English Class by Israel Horvitz. I have a lot of his plays, Israel Horowitz. The Visit by Friedrich Durmont. And this is actually a really good play. I read like the first act though, and then I literally forgot about it, and I haven't ever gone back to it, but I remember from what I read, it was really good. I should really get back to reading this one. I mean, if anything, I should just start from the beginning again and go from there. El Salvador by Rafael Lima. So this is another collection of plays, famous American plays of the 1970s, and the ones it has here are The Basic Training of Pavlo Hummel by David Rabe, Moon Children by Michael Weller, The Taking of Miss Jane by Ed Bullins, Same Time Next Year by Bernard Slade, Gemini by Albert Inarritu, and Buried Child by Sam Shepard. So yeah, I actually read some of the synopsises for synopsi. I actually don't know. You tell me. But no, I actually read the synopsises for some of these plays, and Same Time Next Year, that one seemed like the most interesting, because from what I saw, it takes place within like a 25-year span, and it's about these couple that meets up once a year every 25 years. So actually, that one seems really interesting. Queens of America by C.D. Payne. Spinning into Butter by Rebecca Gilman. Infancy by Thornton Wilder. I have a few Thornton Wilder plays here as well. So this is a collection of plays, Euripides, Volume 5, and it has Electra, The Phoenician Woman, and The Bouquet. Not sure how to pronounce that, but I have a lot of plays where it's like that, where it's either Euripides or Sophocles, for example. You're going to see them somewhere down the road. But it's basically a collection of plays of these classic Greek playwrights, and it's very, very interesting because you got a lot of these. Some of these plays are very hard to find, and then you find them in these collections. So it's great in that aspect. So this is the Hotel Baltimore by Landford Wilson. I actually have 2 copies of this. So yeah, you could actually see the title right here on the side, and it is like that, hotel. It's missing the E, because in the play, the neon sign that says Hotel Baltimore, the E is turned off, like it's not working. So that's why it's titled like that, Hot L. So yeah, and I do have another copy of it somewhere. All right, so next up we have Conversations with Eugene Ionesco by Claude Bonafide. Now it also comes in like this, and this, you can see the title right there. I have another copy of Luther by John Osborne. Rainer Werner Fassbinder's plays. The plays that it includes are The Bitter Tears of Petra von Kant, Bremen Freedom, Cattle-Mocker, Blood on the Cat's Neck, Pre-Paradise Sorry Now, and Garbage, the City of Death. A copy of Hamlet by Shakespeare. This is Urunuku by B.E. Bandel. The Trial of the Chicago 7 by Aaron Sorkin. This is actually the script to it, so it's pretty cool. I actually did feature this in my other video, books I have about filmmaking, and I decided to throw this one in there, but it's still a film script. It's written like a goddamn play, so either way. The Big Meal by Dan Lefranc. And again, like I said, I do have a lot of copies like this, so Euripides Volume 2. And this one includes The Cyclops and Heracles, Iphigenia in Tauris, and Helen. And I have Euripides Volume 1. And it has Alcestis, the Medea, the Heraclid, and Hippolytus. And Aeschylus, Volume 1, which this is basically the Oresteia, Agamemnon, the Libation Bearers, and the Eumenides. Next up, we have 18th Century Plays, a collection of 18th century plays. And the plays that it includes are Cato by Joseph Addison, The Tragedy of Jane Shore by Nicholas Rowe, The Conscious Lovers by Richard Steele, The Beggar's Opera by John Gay, The Tragedy of Tragedies, Tom Thumb the Great by Henry Fielding, The London Merchant by George Lillo, She Stoops to Conquer by Oliver Goldsmith, and The Rivals by Richard Brinsley Sheridan. Alright, so these two are basically textbooks as well. Next up, we have the best plays of 1965 to 1966, and that includes Generations by William Goodhart, The Royal Hunt of the Sun by Peter Schaefer, Hogan's Goat by William Alfred, Man of the Mancha by Dale Wasserman, Joe Darien, and Mitch Lee, Inadmissible Evidence by John Osborne, It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman by David Newman, Robert Benton, Lee Adams, and Charles Strauss, Cactus Flower by Abe Burrows. Okay, this next title, it's long as hell. But it's The Prosecution and Assassination of Marat as performed by the inmates of the asylum of Chanerton under the direction of the Marquis de Sade by Peter Wise. That's a mouthful, and most people just call that Marat Sade. Philadelphia, Here I Come by Brian Friel, The Lion in Winter by James Goldman. And those are all the plays here. Speaking of big ass books, we have the Masterclass of Drama. This has like 40 plays in it. And just to tell you which ones they are, because it's a lot. You have Agamemnon by Aeschylus, Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, the Lysisteria by Aristophanes, the Bacchae by Euripides, Second Shepherd's Play by Anonymous, nobody knows who wrote it, Henry V, Part 1 by Shakespeare, Vapon or the Fox by Ben Jonson, The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster, The Miser, Molière, The Country's Wife by William Wycherley, Phaedra, John Russin, The Rivals, Richard Brinsley Sheridan, Hedda Gabler, Henrik Ibsen, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde, The Cherry Orchid by Anton Chekhov, Riders to the Sea by John M. Synge, The Ghost Sonata by August Strindberg, Six Characters in Search of an Author by Luigi Pirandello, Saint Joan by George Bernard Shaw, Juno and the Paycock by Sean O'Casey, Desire Under the Elms, Eugene O'Neill, House of Bernarda Alba by Federico Garcia Lorca, The Good Woman of Sichuan by Bertolt Brecht, The Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams, Death of a Salesman, Arthur Miller, All the Fall by Samuel Beckett, Act Without Words, Samuel Beckett, Dutchman, Imanu Emiri Baraka, and Equius, Peter Schaefer. Yeah. A View from the Bridge by Arthur Miller. 3 plays by Thornton Wilder, and the 3 plays we have here are Our Town, The Skin of Our Teeth, and The Matchmaker. Beckett by John Anuli. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce that one. And here's the other copy of Hotel Baltimore. So, yeah, different how they both look. The Nerd by Larry Shue. I actually performed a monologue from this play recently. Well, recently-ish, like 3 months ago. So, yeah, I'll see if I maybe perform it here on camera and then post it here on the channel. So, yeah. Next up, we have Greek Tragedies, Volume 3. We have The Eumenides by Aeschylus, Philoctetes by Sophocles, Oedipus at Colonus by Sophocles, The Bacchae by Euripides, and Acestes by Euripides. So this is another collection of plays, Fob and Other Plays by David Henry Hwang. So here you have Fob, The Dance and the Railroad, Family Devotions, The House of Sleeping Beauties, The Sound of a Voice, Rich Relations, and 1,000 Airplanes on the Roof. Next up we have Caesar and Cleopatra by George Bernard Shaw, and The Complete Plays of Christopher Marlowe. And so the plays we have here are Dido, Queen of Carthage, Tamburlaine, Parts 1 and 2, The Jews of Malta, Massacre at Paris, Edward II, and Dr. Faustus. Next up, we have My Sweet Charlie by David Watheimer, The Night of the Iguana by Tennessee Williams, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf by Edward Albee, A Few Good Men, Aaron Sorkin. Honestly, one of my favorite plays of all time. Here's that other copy of Marat Sade. And Ivory Cages by Dwight Nimblett. Next up, we have Euripides, Volume 1, which I have 2 copies of this, actually. So, Acestes, the Medea, the Heracles, Hoplites. So, yeah. So, I'm pretty sure we did the first one. So, this is literally the same exact copy. Again. Next up, we have 4 plays by George Bernard Shaw. So, the plays we have here are Candida, The Devil's Disciple, Caesar and Cleopatra, and Captain Brassbound's Conversation. And here we have some 20th century plays as a collection pack. We have Heartbreak House by George Bernard Shaw, Loyalties by John Galsworthy, Private Lives by Noel Coward, The Chalk Garden by Enid Bagnold, and A Man for All Seasons by Robert Boat, and The Knack by Anne Jellicoe, which I find that to be kind of a funny name, like Angelico, Angelico, so yeah. Okay, next up is Once a Catholic by Mary O'Malley, The Spitfire Grill by James Vausk, Fred Alley, and Lee David Zlatoff. This is actually a musical. Next up, we have 2 plays, Stage Directions and Spared, both by Israel Horovitz. And then here we have 5 plays by Michael Weller, Moonchildren, Fishing, At Home, Abroad, and Loose Ends. And At Home and Abroad are actually part of the same series, Split, because it says At Home, Split Part 1, and Abroad, Split Part 2. And I'm back. So my camera was dying, so I needed to stop filming to charge. So I'm back and I have a costume change, so to speak. Yeah, that's what happens when you go away for about 2 hours to let the camera charge, and then you have a costume change. Oh no, but back to the plays. So next up we have Sweat by Lynn Nottage. Next up it's Our Town by Thornton Wilder, and I have this really beat up copy here, so it's basically falling apart. So yeah, you need to treat that one with special care. Oh, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by John Tiffany and Jack Thorne and J.K. Rowling. And then we have Sophocles 2, which has Ajax, the woman of Trachis, Electra, and Philoctetes. Funny enough, next up, we have another copy of that one. I think this one's just a different color. So yeah. Next up, we have The Bluebird by Maurice Maeterlinck. So here we have film scenes for actors volumes 1 and 2. So basically just scenes from famous movies. So next up we have Eugene O'Neill, some of his earlier plays, a collection of his early plays. And they include The Moon of the Caribbees, Bound East for Cardiff, The Long Voyage Home, In the Zone, Isle, Where the Cross is Made, The Rope, Beyond the Horizon, The Straw, The Emperor Jones, Anna Christie, and The Hairy Ape. Next up we have Euripides 3, Volume 3, and you have Hecuba, Andromache, The Trojan Woman, and Ion. We have Vilcari by Tennessee Williams. We have 18th Century Plays, another collection of that, and it includes Cato, The Tragedy of Jane Shore, The Conscious Lovers, The Beggar's Opera, The Tragedy of Tragedies, The London Merchant, She Stoops to Conquer, The Rivals. Pretty sure this is a second copy of another one I already showed. Now that I think of it, it just looks different from the one I have. The other one I have. Next up we have Dr. Faustus, and this is a different version of it. So for those who don't know, there's actually two versions of Dr. Faustus. There's like an A version and a B version, and this basically has both versions side by side. This is Euripides number 4, volume 4, and it has Rhesus, the suppliant woman, Orestes, and Iphigenia in Aulis, which is different from Iphigenia in Taurus. Those are two different plays. I'm assuming one is a sequel to the other, to be honest, or related to the other. So, yeah. And then we have Brave New World, the play version. Of course, the novel is by Aldous Huxley, but the play version is by David Rogers. Okay, so let's get another pair of textbooks out of the way. These are some big ass heavy books. This first one, it's the Complete Roman Drama. So exactly what it sounds like. A lot of Roman classical drama. And I didn't realize this till I started cataloging this, but this is actually volume 1 of this. However, on the table of contents here, it has both volume 1 and volume 2. So I only have volume 1. So basically the only plays I have from this series is basically a bunch of comedic plays by Plautus, which the ones I have are Amphitryon, The Comedy of Asses, The Pot of Gold, The Two Bacchides, The Captives, Casino, The Casket, Cursulio, Epictetus, The Twin Machimi, The Merchant, The Braggart Warrior, The Haunted House, The Girl from Persia, The Carthaginian, Pseudulius, and The Rope. And while researching this, because I was cataloging everything, turns out that a lot of the plays, the titles I just said, are radically different from what they're originally called. And I don't just mean because, they're translated from this or that. No, a lot of these, even their English translation, what they're normally known in the English language, that title is different from what they have here. I don't know why, but yeah. But I made sure to note that in my catalog. There is a volume 2. Again, this book only contains volume 1, but for whatever reason, on the table of contents, they give me volume 2 as well. But since I don't have volume 2, I'm not going to read volume 2. So next up we have British Dramatist, so a bunch of British plays. And to give you the rundown, and what I like about this, by the way, in the table of contents, it gives me like the era. So here we have Restoration era, the 18th century, mid 18th century, etc., 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 as well as the genre. So like heroic drama, comedy, sentimental comedy, etc., etc. But just to give you the rundown of all the plays that are in this book, we have The Conquest of Granada by the Spaniards, Part 1, by John Dryden, The Rehearsal by George Villiers, All for Love or The World Well Lost by John Dryden, Venice Preserved or A Plot Discovered by Thomas Otway, The Man of Mode or Sir Fopling Flutter by Sir George Etheridge, The Plain Dealer by William Wylerkey, The Relapse or Virtue and Danger by Sir John Vanbrugh, The Way of the World by William Congreve, The Beau Stratagem by George Farquhar. We have The Careless Husband by Colley Kibbers, The Conscious Lovers by Sir Richard Steele, Cato by Joseph Addison, The Tragedy of Jane Shore by Nicholas Rowe, Beggar's Opera by John Gay, The London Merchant or The History of George Barnwell by George Lillo, The Lying Valet by David Garrick, Douglas by John Home, The Jealous Wife by George Coleman, She Stoops to Conquer or The Mistakes of a Knight by Oliver Goldsmith, The Rivals by Richard Brinsley Sheridan, The School for Scandal by Richard Brinsley Sheridan, and The Critic or A Tragedy Rehearsed by Richard Brinsley Sheridan. A lot of Richard Sheridan stuff here, across the collection really. Next up we have Holy Grounds by D.M. Larson, Watch on the Rhine by Lillian Hellman. So next up we have Marathon 95, which is a collection of one-act plays, which are Flyboy by Yvonne Adrian, A Dead Man's Apartment by Edward Allen Bacon, Sonny DeRees' Life Flashes Before His Eyes by Bill Bozone, Freud's House by Lawrence Clavin, Credo by Craig Lucas, No One Will Be Immune by David Mamet, Dearborn Heights by Cassandra Medley, The Ryan Interview or How It Was Around Here by Arthur Miller, Water and Wine by Stuart Spencer, The Wreck of the 525 by Thornton Wilder, Rain by Gary Williams. So again, a bunch of one-act plays from around 1995. So here we have a collection of Heinrich Ibsen plays. It's basically the last 3 plays he ever wrote, and they are Little Eyolf, John Gabriel Borkman, and When We Dead Awaken. So next up we have 4 plays by Horton Foote, and they are The Habitation of Dragons, Night Season, Dividing the Estate, and Talking Pictures. So here's we have a 2-pack essentially, Rubbers and Yank 3 Detroit 0 Top of the 7th, both by Jonathan Reynolds. So here we have a collection of John Arden plays, Volume 1, and they are Sergeant Musgrave's Dance, The Workhouse Donkey, and Armstrong's Last Good Night. And here we have Nothing But the Truth by Avi. Actually, funny story with this one. I actually had to read this in 4th grade. I don't remember if it was like to go to 4th grade, you know how you have like summer reading stuff, or if I had to read it during 4th grade or whatever. But I remember I didn't like this book because it was written like a goddamn play, and that was the first, I'm pretty sure this is the first play I had ever read, period, and I really didn't like it because, again, written like a goddamn play. So I put it away for several years, you know, it just kind of was one of those books I always had, put it with the rest of my books, and for the longest time it was just stored. And then when I started collecting plays, I randomly remembered about this book, researched it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a play, and I started looking for it, and then I found it, and I kind of want to reread it again. Actually, I remember I said this exactly in the last collection video where I showed off all my plays. So from that time to now, I still haven't read this goddamn book, but I know I want to at some point. And it's basically, long story short, it's about this kid who doesn't want to sing the national anthem. He hums it instead. So, you know, instead of, oh, say, can you see? He goes, and he gets into a lot of trouble, and it's a huge media shitstorm. And, you know, given current events in the past, like, what, 5-6 years? Does relate a lot. Next up, we have Arthur Miller, Broken Glass. Ted Hughes, Tales from Ovid. So basically, this is very similar to Spoon River Anthology, from what I understand, in the sense that it's a bunch of poems and monologues that all intertwine with each other. The only difference is that Ted Hughes, he really just adapted Ovid's poems or plays. And Ovid, this guy, he had a piece of work that was very extensive. It's called something like the Metamorphoses or the something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Ted Hughes, he actually got a lot of the work that he could find from Ovid's original work and just adapted it to a modern audience, and now we have this. So it's very similar to Spoon River Anthology. Next up, we have, again, The Beau Stratagem by George Farquhar. Twain Plus Twain by Bernard Sabbath. Next up, we have Oedipus by Andre Gide. And here on the title, you could definitely see that says Oedipus and Theseus. So the thing with this is that Oedipus is actually a play, whereas Theseus is a short story, which I find pretty interesting. And yeah, but it still has a play, so it's still here. Next up, we have A Shot in the Dark by Marcel Arcard. And here we have Aeschylus, Volume 3, has The Suppliant Maidens, The Persians, Seven Against Thebes, and Prometheus Bound. Just off the title, I think Prometheus Bound sounds pretty interesting. Another copy of Our Town, less beat up than the last one I showed. Sweet Bird of Youth by Tennessee Williams. All the Way Home by Tad Moselle. One Way Pendulum by N.F. Simpson. We have Greek Tragedies Volume 2, and this one has The Libation Bearers by Aeschylus, Electra by Sophocles, and Iphigenia in Taurus, Electra and the Trojan Woman by Euripides. And here we have Othello by Shakespeare, also pretty beat up. Next up, we have another collection of Restoration dramas, and this has The Country Wife by William Wycherley, All for Love by John Dryden, The History of King Lear by Nahum Tate, Venice Preserved by Thomas Otway, The Squire of Alstasia by Thomas Shadwell, and The Way of the World by William Congreve. Here we have Webster and Tourneur, basically 2 plays by Webster, 2 plays by Tourneur, John Webster and Cyril Tourneur, and they are The White Devil and the Duchess of Malfi. Those are the Webster plays, and The Atheist Tragedy and The Revenger's Tragedy. Those are Tourneur. Euripides, 10 plays, so exactly what it sounds like, 10 plays by Euripides. It has Acestes, Medea, Hippolytus, Andromache, Ion, Trojan Woman, Electra, Iphigenia among the Taurians, the Bacchantes, Iphigenia at Aulis, and that's it. Next up, we have The Resistible Rise of Arturo Uni by Bertolt Brecht. You Can't Take It With You by Moss Hart and George Kaufman. The Boys Next Door by Tom Griffin. Graceland and Asleep on the Wind. Both of these are by Ellen Byron. And then we have 3 Gloucester plays by Israel Horovitz. And the ones you have here are Park Your Car in the Harvard Yard, Henry Lumper, and North Shore Fish. Next up, we have The Musical Comedy Murder of 1940 by John Bishop. And despite the title, it's not a musical. It's just a comedy. Next up, we have The Deputy by Rolf Hutchuth. And here they advertise it as the most controversial bestseller of our time. And I actually researched it, and it's because this actually talks against the Pope that was in power during the time of the Holocaust. Rolf Hutchuth had a major issue with him, didn't like him, so he basically criticized the living shit out of him in this play. And there's a lot of people who disagree with his portrayal of the Pope. So yeah, controversial, yeah. We have Good, C.P. Taylor, speaking of the Holocaust. This is also another very interesting one. It's about these 2 friends. One of them is Jewish and one of them isn't, and it's during the time of the Holocaust, and the character who's not Jewish, he's hearing everything about the final solution and everything Hitler has to say, and he's slowly getting convinced that that may be the right course of action, despite the fact that his friend is Jewish. So it's very interesting. So next up, we have a collection of Sophocles plays, which are Antigone, Oedipus the King, Electra, and Philoctetes. Next up, we have the best short plays of 1986, and the plays that we have here are Advice to the Players by Bruce Bonafide, Reasonable Circulation by P.J. Barry, Dog Lady by Milka Sanchez Scott, The Root of Chaos by Douglas Soderbergh, Slam by Jane Nixon Willis, The Love Suicide of Shawfield Barracks by Romulus Linney, Going In by David Cranes, Ariel Bright by Catherine Long, Blood Bond by Gina Barrett, and The Agreement by Janet Nepierus. Here we have a collection of Eugene O'Neill plays, which include Antigone, Eurydice, The Ermine, The Rehearsal, and Romeo and Janet. Next up, we have the complete plays of John M. Synge, which includes The Playboy of the Western Road, Riders to the Sea, In the Shadow of Glen, The Well of the Saints, The Tinker's Wedding, and Deidre's of the Sorrows. Play-It Again Sam by Woody Allen. And then here we have 3 plays by Plautus, Miles Glorious, Epitherion, and The Prisoners. Next up, we have The Laramie Project and The Laramie Project 10 Years Later. Most of it is by Moises Kaufman, but he has a huge team behind them. Most notably, the members of the Tectonic Theater Project. So yeah, basically for those who don't know, The Laramie Project, it's a series of interviews from the town of Laramie based off of this kid who got murdered because he was gay, essentially. and there's a bunch of interviews and how that affected the community. And then 10 years later, the same team decided to go back and interview most of the same people to see where they're at now. And that's how we got the sequel 10 years later. So it's very interesting. And actually, the Laramie Project, the first one, we were actually going to do at MDC, but again, kind of just the way things worked out. Originally, we were going to do our Laramie Project. Then, after we figured some stuff out, we were going to do Dog Sees God, and then the world went to shit. So, yeah. Next off, we have Play Script 78 by Steve Burkhoff, basically 3 plays by him, which are East, Agamemnon, and The Fall of the House of Usher. Oedipus the King, Sophocles, one of my favorite plays of all time. Straight up. As If by William Hoffman. Next up, we have 5 comedies of medieval France. And can I just say, before I actually get to the plays, the cover, it's amazing. I love it. But the plays we have here are The Play of St. Nicholas by John Bodell, The Play of Robin and Marion by Adam de la Halle, Peter Quill's Shenanigans by Anonymous, can't pronounce shit, and no, not Peter Quill, MCU Peter Quill. Actually, the French title doesn't even reference Quill. It says La Force de Maître Pierre Pathilian. Not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but yeah, that's a cool thing. That's a cool thing with some of these collection books, especially if they involve plays from a different country, like Italy, France, German, etc. They sometimes usually have the original title next to it. And then the last 2 plays here are The Washtub and The Chicken Pie and the Chocolate Cake. Both of them are anonymous, but it seems that they at least know they're both created by the same person. Next up, Lips Together, Teeth Apart by Terrence McNally. Villainous Company by Amlin Gray. And from what I understand, this is basically, if you guys remember that scene from Wreck-It Ralph where you have all the villains basically going to a therapy session, from what I understand, it's basically like that, kind of, but with Shakespeare villains. So, yeah. From what I understand. I could be wrong, to be honest, but that's what I more or less understood. Next up, we have Wings by Arthur Coppett, which is kind of on the nose. I mean, I understand that's his last name, but like, it's Wings, Cockpit, co-pilot, cockpit, of a plane. Just me? I don't know. Next up, we have The Serpent by Jean-Claude Van Italy. It's funny because this guy's last name is Jean-Claude Van Italy, but I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, he's Belgium. I just find it funny. Next up, we have The Brute and Other Farces by Anton Chekhov. And the plays you have here are The Harmfulness of Tobacco, Swan Song, The Brute, A Marriage Proposal, Summer in the Country, A Wedding, and The Celebration. All Chekhov plays. Next up, we have 2 plays by John Gannett, The Maid and Death Watch. 4 plays by George Bernard Shaw. I'm pretty sure I already showed another version of this. And it includes The Devil's Disciples, Candida, Caesar and Cleopatra, Man and Superman, and The Revolutionist Handbook. It's funny, I just realized it says 4 plays, but it has 5. Wow. So yeah. So here we have Great Russian Plays, which is exactly what it sounds like. Great plays by Russians. So yeah. And here we have The Inspector General by Nikolai Gogol, The Month in the Country by Ivan Turganev, The Power of Darkness by Leo Tolstoy, The Cherry Orchid by Anton Chekhov, The Lower Depths by Maxim Gorky, and He Who Gets Slapped by Leonid Andreyev. Here we have Let's Get Divorced and Other Plays, and in here we have A Trip Abroad by Eugene Lebaich and Edward Martin, Selimir by Eugene Lebaich and Delacour, and lyrics by Eric Bentley, so it's a musical. Let's Get Divorced by Victorien Sardou and Emile de Najac, These Cornfields by Georges Courtline, Keep an Eye on Amélie by Georges Feydeau, A United Family by Jacques Pervert. And yes, that's his last name, Pervert. And last but not least, for the plays, because I'm still going to show you my poetry collection very fast, because it's like 10 books. But last but not least, here we have The Classic Theater. And oh look, edited by Eric Bentley. Again, he's been across a bunch of these plays here, especially some of these older stuff. I just didn't care to mention him because he's more of the translator / adapter than the actual playwright, if that makes sense. But the plays you have here are Le Cid by Pierre Corneille. You have The Misanthrope by Molière, Phaedra by John Racine, Tourquet by Hélène Renée Lessange, The False Confession by Pierre de Marvaux, and Figaro's Marriage by Bill Marcus. So play-wise, that's all I have. Now, on to the poetry. Again, it's like 10 books. Let me show it off very fast. And here are my poetry books. Again, I have like 10 of them. I like combining them with the plays, so why not? So here we have a poems from New York. 100 best love poems. Where the Sidewalk Ends. All of them are by Shel Silverstein, who, if you don't know who that is, The Giving Tree. If you don't know that book, go know that book, essentially. Learn about that book. That book's important. Next up, we have Courses by Quincy Troop, and I actually got this in California when I went there. San Diego. Next up, we have Creando Ideas Hacemos Poesías, which is basically Spanish poetry, and it's by Carlos Enrique Rojas and Karen Haas. I'm assuming those are the two main poets for this. Here we have Irish Verses, so a bunch of Irish poetry. Inspirational Words by Sophia Lazarus. Dark Nights, Brighter Days, Kent Berry. Realities of the Heart by Emerson Patricio. Playing with Words in the Dark by P.L. McCall II. Haunted Fields, a collection of poems from battlefields and broken hearts. Original poetry of love and war. And the one thing I'm not sure about this, it says by Sergeant Benjamin R. Gormley, but I just don't think it's all by the same person, just because of the nature of this book, in my opinion, or the poems. But that's just me. And then last but not least, and when it comes to poetry, this is probably the best poem to ever have. And it's very weird because one poem in a single book, what the hell? Here's why. It's Beowulf by Seamus Heaney, or New Verse translated by Seamus Heaney. So, yeah, Beowulf, one of the most important poems of all time, just one of the most important literary pieces of all time. Too bad I can't get a good movie for shit. So, but yeah, Beowulf. This is basically poem. This is basically a big ass poem. I don't know what to tell you. And what's really cool here is that they have it in English, but they also have it in Norwegian or Scandinavian, whatever. But they have it in that language right there. Just a great way to end this video with Beowulf. So yeah, that's basically my whole collection of plays, and then my small collection of poetry books. Tell me what you think. Down in the description below, I am going to add basically the full list of all the plays I have. I will be adding basically every single play that I have, whether it be in a collection or a single or whatever. It's all going to be there, so you guys can check it out. It's going to be the plays as well as the playwrights, and you guys can search it up if there's one you're interested in. Definitely go check it out. I know I have to read the vast majority of my plays. It's just like I'm always so busy with filming and acting and all that stuff that I really don't have time to read it sometimes. But I am trying to read a bit more, to be honest. So hopefully one day, especially with Nothing But the Truth, because I said that last time I was going to read it. Didn't happen. Let's see what happens this time. So yeah, no, I mean, there's a bunch of interesting plays here across the board. They're all great. A lot of classic stuff, a lot of modern stuff. Again, I'm pretty sure Sweat may be the newest thing I have. That or Spinning for Butter, one of those two are like, those are definitely 2000 stuff. Here's my entire collection. I don't know how long this video is because I've basically done it in 3 or 4 parts. Of course, I did the first part and then the second part because my battery died. And here, this last part with the poetry, that's actually part 3 because I needed to reorganize a little bit, and plus the intro at the very beginning, so there's part 4. So who knows how long this video is going to be? Is it going to be an hour? Is it going to be half an hour? Who the fuck knows? We'll find out. I'll find out in editing, and you'll see down there. Also, don't forget to go check out DMarch Productions. I finally created a YouTube channel for my production company, and there you can find the trailers and the actual films to some of the stuff that I film under the banner of DMarch Productions. So stuff like Corner, Quince, The Date, Project Grotto, all of the Silent Locale cinematics, The Deal, Unwritten, all that stuff is going to be there. Whether it be the trailers or the actual film itself, it's going to be there. If you guys haven't seen my last video, I basically created a channel to separate both my filmmaking career and my acting career, so to speak, because I want to do different type of stuff on this channel, just like this video. So definitely go do check it out, support it, subscribe. I'm going to be posting stuff on that channel somewhat regularly, you know, trying to build the channel up. So it'd mean a lot if you guys go over there and subscribe to it. The link will be down below or somewhere here as well in the cards or the credits or whatever. And yeah, that's basically it for now. Again, tell me what you guys thought about all the plays, or which ones should I read next, which ones should I get, what are your thoughts on it. And again, in the description down below, it's going to be the whole list of all the plays alongside the playwrights, in case any of you guys want to go check it out. Thank you for watching. This is Daniel Mart signing off. And at the end of it all, this is how I organized all of my plays and poems on top of this trunk. And the reason why they're not on a bookshelf, it's because my bookshelf, the only one I have, is currently being occupied by my movie collection. And again, that's just a small portion, so yeah. I would show you the actual shelf, but it's a little bit messy right now, so yeah. I need to find a damn way to organize all this stuff, but that's for another time. But yeah, like I said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe to my channel, DMarts Productions. Subscribe to both channels. Have a great day. So it turns out I have to make an addition to the video now. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember if I mentioned this already in the video, because that whole other portion of the video was filmed about 2 to 3 weeks ago. But essentially, the reason why I have so many plays, how I got so many plays, is because my school, they have this area where you could take plays. They were giving away free plays, so that's how I got the bulk of my collection. Again, I'm not sure if I already said this, and honestly, I'm too lazy to go back and rewatch the video as is, because honestly, I forgot how long it is. Literally, the day I was originally going to post is when this happened, essentially. So yeah, my school, again, was giving away more plays, and I got more plays. So yeah, now I'm making this addition, and hopefully I'll have the video out sometime this weekend. So let's just go through these additions. It's not that many. I say that, but then I'm gonna have probably like 100 plays, so who the hell knows. So yeah, here we have Real Estate by Louis Page, Lillian by William Luce, The Menagerie by Platus. I'm pretty sure I already have that somewhere else. Okay, here I have The Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams. Here's the thing. I have a copy of Glass Menagerie, but I can't find it, so I just got this. I have no idea where my copy of Glass Menagerie went, and I also don't know where my copy of Streetcar went. They were both in the past video that I did about this. I don't know where the hell they went at all. I've been looking for them ever since I realized, oh shit, they're missing. So, I mean, if anything, I'll just buy them again. Buy a better copy of Glass Menagerie, because this one's basically falling apart, but, you know, have it for the time being. We have Persuasion by John Jory, California Suite by Neil Simon, The Gingerbread Lady, also by Neil Simon, Exiles by James Joyce, Plaza Suite by Neil Simon. A lot of Neil Simon plays now that I'm looking at this. Love by Murray Shisgow, University by John Jory, The Seahorse by Edward J. Moore, The Runner Stumbles by Millen Stitt, The Royal Hunt of the Sun by Peter Schaefer, Faust by Goth. Faust Part 1 by Goth, really, so. Butley by Simon Gray. We have Ibsen selected plays, so basically a bunch of Heinrich Ibsen plays, and they include Peer Gynt, A Doll's House, The Wild Duck, Hedda Gabler, The Master Builder. So those are the plays that are featured here. The Sudden and Accidental Re-Education of Horst Johnson by Douglas Taylor. Damn, it's a mouthful. 15 Short Plays by Terence McNally. So basically 15 short plays by Terence McNally. And they include Bringing It All Back Home, Noon, Botticelli, Next, Cuba C, Sweet Eros, Witness, Whiskey, Bad Habits, The Ritz, Prelude and Liebestod, Andre's Mother, The Wibbly Wobbly Wiggly Dance That Cleopatra Did, Street Talk, Hidden Agendas. Confusions by Alan Ayckbourn, 36 Views by Naomi Lizuka, A Christmas Carol by Christopher Bigelow, James Wood, and Malcolm Shapcott. This is more of the musical. Here we have Our National Flag by Utan Rashid. Here we have Behan, the complete plays. So basically every single play ever written by Brendan Behan, which includes The Queer Fellow, The Hostage, Richard's Cork Leg, Moving Out, A Garden Party, and The Big House. So 6 plays, if I'm not mistaken. Here we have Famous American Plays of the 1930s. And we have The Time of Your Life by William Sarian, Idiot's Delight by Robert E. Sherwood, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, Awake and Sing by Clifford Odets, and End of Summer by S.N. Berman. I actually didn't know there was a play of a Mice and Men, so I'll probably look into that one. Here we have Don Carlos and Mary Stuart by Friedrich Schiller. Like Bees to Honey by Andrea M. Green. The First Lust by Frank Wedekins. Here we have Tartuffe and Other Plays by Molière, so a bunch of plays by Molière, which includes Tartuffe, which, by the way, Tartuffe is a fucking trip of a play. But the other plays that it includes are The Ridiculous Precious, The School for Husbands, The School for Wives, Don Juan, The Versailles Impromptu, and The Critique of the School for Wives. So, very interesting. Definitely would want to look into this almost immediately, to be honest. And all the plays fell. Great. Give me a moment. So yeah, I had them all stacked here on the side, and then boom, they all fell. And it's funny because I literally had one last one here, literally the last one of this whole entire video, unless something else happens in the next, by the time I edit this and release the video again. But yeah, no, last one is The Merry Wives of Windsor by Shakespeare. So yeah, that's the last one here. Just throw it on the ground with the rest of them. So yeah, that's basically it for this whole video. Hopefully, I was literally gonna post this video like a week ago, and then I found more plays. I still want to find my copy of Streetcar and Glass Menagerie. I have no idea where they went. I don't know where they could have gone. Yeah, but that aside, that's basically every single play with this new little end credit scene, I guess. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts? Do you like the plays? Which ones should I read first? Same thing I asked you about 10 minutes ago, give or take, when I originally thought the video was gonna end. So yeah, hopefully y'all have a good day, and that's basically it for now. This is Daniel Mart signing off.